Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm Kristie Bryant with the Best of Austin Living Team, and we have Cody Reid today with Pilgrim Mortgage. So excited. He's going to talk to us about home buying tips. We're going to go through the whole thing. We have Camille Palafox on here as well. And we are going to talk about buying a home in the Austin area in 2025. I have some specific tips for you based upon today's market. It is a much different market than it has been in many, many years. We have more homes on the market than we've had since 1995. Just think about that. What was the population of Austin in 1995? About 500,000. What is the population today in the greater Austin area? It's about 2 million. And so you have a house like probably 10 on every block. That's a little exaggeration, isn't it, Cody? But, there are a lot of homes on the market right now. There are truly a lot. So it is a buyer's market. It does feel that way. It is a buyer's market. And so it's a great time to be a buyer in Austin. I have to say that for the last over 10 years, it hasn't felt this way. It hasn't felt like a buyer's market. And today it is. So we're going to talk.
So, well, first of all, let me just say I've been doing this for 18 years now. So just some qualifying stats on mine. 18 years doing mortgages and over 3,000 closed loans or families helped served as far as loans. So I've been doing it. I've done a few loans in my time. So trying to give as much helpful advice as possible to make it as easy as possible because it's really not that hard, I feel like, to get approved to buy a home. So we'll cover some real quick. I'm more the how-to person as far as this presentation goes and just everything in real estate when it comes to buying. Kristie's, you're going to be a little bit of the how-to, but also a lot of the whys. Why do you buy real estate and why Austin and those kind of details. But I'll jump straight into the how-to. We'll cover some differences between pre-approval and pre-qualified and what it really means to get pre-approved. And then I'll get into at the end, basically how you figure out how much you're approved for. So on the lending side, it really comes down to the way you get approved. It all comes down to three questions: credit, cash, and capacity, which we call it 3 C's, but just because we had to say C for capacity, what that really means is income. So does the person have a job? Do they have enough income to get approved for a loan? That's basically it. So what I'm showing you now on the screen, though, is pre-approval. So pre-approval means we're actually getting into the details of all those answers. Do we have any cash? What's the game plan for the cash? What's the game plan for the income? And what's the game plan for the credit? What are all those details? And we verify everything. So that is the main difference between a pre-approval and a pre-qualification. Pre-qualification really means you had a good chat or a good conversation. And based on everything discussed, sounds like everything should be fine. Pre-approval, and the reason why you do pre-approvals when you're going to make offers, it allows you to make an offer that's super strong. We had somebody make an offer today and we're closing in 2 weeks because we've already gathered all the proper documentation, pay stubs, W-2s. I'll hit a list here on another screen. But we get everything done ahead of time before we go make an offer on a home. So a buyer knows exactly how much they're approved for. If there's any question marks, we cover all question marks before you're out there making offers. That's what it means to be pre-approved. Basically approved in everywhere. So how do you get to that phase? Well, it starts with a loan application. So it's basically plugging in your information, name, date of birth, where you live, where you work, how much money you make, how much money's in the bank. That's about it. You're looking at a quick list of items that you actually need to get started. So a couple of pay stubs, a W-2, driver's license, bank statement. And the only time you really need tax returns is if you're self-employed. The only time you need a DD-214 is when you're VA. So some of those things don't really apply. It's usually just 4 quick items: bank statement, pay stubs, W-2, driver's license. That'll apply to most people. So once you gather those documents, that's called the loan application. From there, we get it into processing. So it can range anywhere from a couple days to a couple weeks, depending on what the borrower has going on. So if a borrower has lots of variable income, meaning overtime, commissions, bonus, RSU income for stocks and stuff like that, those kind of variables might add an extra day or two or extra time to getting everything approved for verification. So lenders do verify everything as far as income. I know it makes sense, right? But lenders definitely verify everything coming in on pay stubs. So From there, you go through underwriting, and we actually get loans approved. I prefer to get them approved before you buy a house. Sometimes this can be the process you're doing as you're basically after you've already made an offer on a house, you go back through underwriting again and get everything updated. So it can take anywhere from 2 days to a week, depending on what's going on with the borrower and timing and how fast everybody's getting paperwork turned in. So, one second, I'm going to stop sharing this. This kind of covers a little bit more of the timeline from going from underwriting to clear to close and funding. I'm kind of jumping ahead of the process here. I'm going to go back here and stop sharing. All right, Kristie, back on the screen. So first of all, just to kind of dive into the how a little bit more. Usually the exercise I have everybody do is take your gross annual income, divide by 12, and you get your gross monthly paycheck, right, before taxes. So lenders always use gross incomes, money before taxes and any benefits, 401k contributions, whatever are deducted from your paycheck. The lender will use that gross income. So let's use a good example. $72,000 salary is $6,000 a month on gross income. And so usually I encourage everybody to break out a piece of paper and a pen at home. You take that $6,000 per month income, drop it in half. That's $3,000. That is the total amount of debt the lender can use to get you approved. So that includes your potential house payment plus any other bills you have, car payments, student loans, minimums on credit cards. It does not count anything like an electric bill or a cell phone bill or anything like that. So it's purely just items on credit. So if you have a $300 car payment and $200 between all the different credit cards, et cetera, so you say you've got that $3,000 in total debt you're allowed. Remember, you had the $6,000 paycheck. Chop it in half, you get $3,000. Now you subtract your known bills of $500 a month. Magically, that's how you're approved for a $2,500 house payment. Does that make sense? That's your, 30-second back of the napkin approval, right? There are some finer details. You can pay things off to get approved. You can figure out extra income. There's different options on stuff like that, but that's more or less how all the lenders are going to be determining how much you're approved for. Some programs will let you go higher than a 50% ratio. Kristie, did you want to let some of the people in on the waiting room? I didn't know if you were watching that or not. I want to make sure we're keeping everybody anybody that's coming in late, keep them coming in. So,
Yeah, I'll check again. I looked a minute ago and we were good.
Okay. Well, I said there were 2 people waiting, so I just want to make sure.
Oh, I didn't see that. Thank you.
Yeah. 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 Anna and Sarah. Yeah.
I don't think I can see it because you're the host. I'm going to reclaim being the host. There we go.
That's why.
That's funny.
I let him in. Yeah. Okay. I think everybody's in now. So,
Yep.
Okay.
So Cody, this is Camille. Can
Go
people
ahead, Camille.
buy a house if they have no cash down?
Yes.
No VA you can,
so
but what about conventional?
Yes. So on conventional, well, if you're going to do conventional, you'll have to do down payment assistance. There are some banks, I want to say like a Navy Fed. You don't have to be military, but you do have to be a member of Navy Fed. That'll do 100% financing. Are you familiar with that program, Kristie?
I have not used it, but I haven't had a client use it before.
It is a 100% financing program. I just know Navy Fed has it. It's a higher interest rate program, but it's no money down. There's also down payment assistance programs, so kind of very similar.
So what's the trade-off if somebody does opt to do a down payment assistance program?
Usually the trade-off is you're going to get a slightly higher rate. And so I always try to remind people nothing is free in this world, right? There's no, some people might advertise, yes, it's a free down payment assistance. It's money that's coming from a state program, could be Texas Department of Housing, Texas State Affordable Housing Community. I forget the acronyms, TSAHC and TDHCA. Those are usually the most popular two that we use that provide the down payment assistance. And they can be in the forms of grants that you repay. There can be some that are forgiven after 3 years. There are some that are forgiven after 6 months. There's a whole lot of different options on the down payment assistance. But depending on which program you go with, that program sets the interest rate for that program. So, but usually it's a higher interest rate. So if interest rates are in the 6s right now, those programs are usually in the 7s.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
And the more favorable the terms are for you, so meaning the one that has the grant that's forgiven after 6 months, that'll have the highest interest rate. The one that you pay back in whenever you sell the house, that might have a lower interest rate in the 6s. The one that's forgiven after 3 years, that might be somewhere in the middle on the interest rate. So there's kind of pros and cons. And then the more money they give you, the higher the rate is. So if they're only giving you a 2% grant, that's going to have a much lower interest rate than if they're giving you a 5% grant. Basically, if they're giving you $15,000, they want a higher interest rate. So, like I said, I like to show everybody what's behind the curtain to say, here's nothing's free. The program that, Texas State, whatever program, they make it back over time on the interest rate. This is basically how that works. That makes sense to me. So, now, I will say usually of those 3 C's, when I mentioned cash, capacity, meaning income, and credit, as long as we usually have 2 out of 3, we can usually solve it. So meaning if you have a whole bunch of cash and pretty decent credit, I don't even need any income. We can get you approved, right? If you have a whole bunch of income and great credit, but no cash, there you go, down payment assistance. I can get you approved. You kind of check in 2 out of 3, right? But if you have a good job, but no credit and no cash, ooh, we're in trouble now, right? Because you do have to have a certain credit score, at least a 620, to get approved for a down payment assistance loan. So it's usually we're trying to get, if we can get 2 out of 3, we can usually solve the problem. Does that make sense? So, and then Camille, yeah, just anytime, if anybody wants to ask any questions as we're going, please ask away. So
I have 2
go
questions
ahead,
for clients that we're going to be on here. One, they are, when they previously purchased, he was a W-2 employee, and now they are 1099 employees, both he and his wife. How does that affect them? What do they need to? How is it going to change for them?
So newly self-employed is what that is. So when you are,
yeah.
That's anytime you switch to 1099, you are effectively self-employed at that point. So you're running your own small business. It could be just you changing how you got paid with your employer. If you're getting paid by 1099, you are now a contract employee and therefore self-employed. So you'll need a 2-year history. Again, this goes back to there's lots of one-off programs. If we want to do a traditional loan with the best interest rates, you'll need a 2-year history of being self-employed. If you want to do something that is called an alternative loan program, like a bank statement loan program or a P&L program or a 1099 program, there's options where we use just the 1099 as the income to qualify. But you might have to do more money down, 10% down. Instead of getting a rate in the 6s, the rate might be in the 7s. So pros and cons to the trade-offs. So lots of self-employed people do bank statement loans because they have lots of money coming in, but they don't claim any money on their tax returns. So.
And then the other question is somebody that their debt is much like, so maybe challenged on credit and challenged on debt. So if they were to look forward to the next year, what are generally the things that you suggest for them to do? What are the top tips?
Yeah, so So credit, I always look at credit as it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when, right? So can we fix credit in 1 week? Sometimes it's 2 days. Sometimes it's 2 months. Sometimes it's a full-on year. And I'll know right away within, 2 minutes of looking at credit. This is a 6-month project or a 2-year project, whatever it is. So, or we can fix it in 2 days by paying down a couple credit cards. So, what I always encourage everybody to do is it doesn't hurt to find out where you are. A lot of people don't. Nobody usually wants to deal with if they're having credit issues. They just don't want to. They just kind of want to put it out of sight, out of mind, and not deal with it. And it's always best just to deal with it, rip the Band-Aid off, and then we start wherever we start. And if it takes a year to fix it, then so be it. We're going to be in a better spot 1 year from now than we are today. So, and we can always give pointers on stuff like that, very specific to whether it's paying down credit cards or staying on time is usually the number one thing. One late payment on a credit card, a car loan, a student loan, anything, one late payment can drop your score 70 points, 70. So, and that's not a 5 days late, that doesn't count. It's a 30-day late. So it's really, I always encourage everybody to set up automatic payments for the minimum, no matter what. And if you want to pay the full credit card balance off every month, love that. Great financial advice to do that. You pay no interest, but at least at a minimum, you've always got a payment going. Nobody accidentally goes on a vacation and forgets to make that payment and gets one late payment. So,
Well,
yeah, what are the questions you think in there, Kristie, that people might ask or Camille?
I know one more. They want to know, what is the interest rate today, and is now a good time to buy, Cody? If I just not even looking at the housing market, where it's at, based upon the mortgage, like where are we at with that?
Well, I would say we hit about 6.75 to 6.875. Now it will depend on the program. So if you're doing, and I don't want to get too in depth because there's almost too many programs to kind of memorize them all, right? That's a good lender's job, is to know all the different programs. But your basics, conventional, might be in the high sixes, 6.7 to 6.8 kind of range. Your FHA or VA loans, USDA, will be closer to 6.5 to maybe 6.25. So they're always going to be lower on the interest rates, the government loans, FHA, VA, and USDA. So, but they will have trade-offs. FHA will have mortgage insurance or more expensive mortgage insurance than conventional will if you have a really high credit score on conventional. So these are part of the pros and cons when you're working with a lender to figure out, why would I go conventional 5% down? Or why would I do FHA and 3.5% down? And it's going to depend on a few different variables. Usually credit score is one of them. Sometimes it's down payment, and then sometimes it's debt to income ratio. So makes sense.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'd say rates in the sixes right now. And to answer your question on, is it a good time to buy a home? It's kind of, is this a Japanese proverb? When was the best time to plant a tree? Is that, or am I thinking?
Yesterday.
I'm mixing up my proverbs. Yeah, it was yesterday. So when's the second best time? Today. Right? And that's always my thought on real estate. We all look back and say shoulda, coulda, woulda on real estate. And the best thing we can all do is just get in the game, jump in the game, and be invested in real estate. Because I do think, bigger picture, you might not time the bottom tomorrow or next week, whether it's the interest rate or the price of the home. It's too hard to predict the exact bottom. Same thing in like stock market, right? But 10 years from now, where do we think we're going to be? And that's the way I look at real estate. Is it's more of a 5-year, 10-year, longer term vision. Where's real estate going to be 10 years from now? I put a lot of money on it being higher. So does that make sense?
Absolutely. Thank you, Cody. Look here for just a moment at what the market is actually doing we're going to go back. So we're going to look at the city of Austin. I think it's important for y'all to know that the market in Austin is completely different than it has been in years and years. So more homes in the market since we've had since 1995, which I shared when we started this a few minutes ago. depending upon the budget that they have. When you look at the median sales price for Austin at 590, that seems like a lot. It does. So I'm going to show you some of the different areas around Austin, and there are lesser more affordable places that you can purchase in the Austin area. A couple other things to note, that really truly it is a buyer's market. The average close to list price down in the bottom right, this is important. What this means is that there was the price that the house was listed at, and then what is the price that it closed at. Most homes have some type of reduction in price from their list price. The average is 94%, right? So from the 100% being the list price, 94% being what it ended up at. So if you had a house that was listed at $100,000, that doesn't happen in Austin anymore, but if you had one at $100,000, closing at $94,000. So there is a lot of opportunity, a lot of homes with price discounted. What's important to know about that is that I've had the question from some folks, even from sellers. We work with a lot of sellers. Won't somebody think that somebody's wrong with my house if I discount the price? Absolutely not. What that means in this market is that the seller is being realistic, that they want to get the house sold, and they are responding to the market. So if you see a house that's been on the market for a while and it has price reductions, it's not because there's necessarily anything wrong with the house. It's because the sellers are being responsive. The other thing you want to notice when you're looking at stats is the average days on market. So these are for homes sold in the city of Austin, 65 days. That means for the homes that went under contract. There are still a lot of homes that are active on the market, and our team will let you know that I think it's at the 77-day mark for homes that are active, not under contract. So for the homes that have gone under contract, 65 days, and that is up 5 days from last year. Let's take a look at a couple of the others. So going back to this median sales price for the city of Austin, 590. If you were to look at Williamson County, so to the north of Travis County, north of Austin, 418. That's significantly different. So if you're wanting a home that's a little bit less in the price range, Williamson County is a great place to look. Keeps on going down as you look to Hayes County, which is south of Travis County, south of Austin, 390. And then if we look out in Bastrop, 351. So there are opportunities for pretty much all price ranges. And we, within our team, have found some new home builds that are in the high twos, low threes, not within the city of Austin, but pretty close, and most of them being south of Austin. A couple of tips that I would encourage for home buying in the Austin area in 2025. First of all, the Austin housing market has cooled. Again, we have more homes on the market than we've had since 1995. So that means that it's a buyer's market, truly. We're almost at 6 months of inventory. When it's 6 months, that means if no other homes came on the market, it would take 6 months to sell the inventory that we have. So for the Austin market, it truly is a buyer's market where it's been the seller's market for years. When we look at the median home price, this is looking at Austin and the entire Austin, greater Austin area. 498 is the median home price, and that is a reduction from 7.7 from last year. So prices have gone down. There are more homes to choose from. That's a great market for a buyer. And again, for the whole entire Austin area, looking at average being on market at 96 days. 27.5% of those homes have had price reductions. And I have to say, I think it's actually more than that. So what it comes down to is that the buyer has negotiation power. It's also important to understand the neighborhood. There are still some neighborhoods that are very hot, and you can't go in thinking that you're going to get a huge discount on the price. What buyers are looking for these days is they're looking for homes that are maintained well, they look great, they're move-in ready, and it's a good price. So some neighborhoods are responding well. Some neighborhoods, there have not been a lot of homes that have come on the market, and so they're still very desirable, as opposed to some other neighborhoods that maybe there are more homes on the market and it's more of a buyer's market. So we have to look, that's something that we help you with. We have to look neighborhood to neighborhood. Choosing the right location. It is really important to not just choose the home, but your whole lifestyle, and also your, if you are working, you're not working remotely, where is it that the house is compared to where you're going to work, going to school, where your family is spending their time. Focusing on the long-term fit, not just the wow factor. There are some really cute houses out there. People are really making an effort staging their homes, but is it the home for you? Can you see yourself there in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? You want to purchase a home that you're going to be in for a while. And then the inspection is important, truly. The inspection truly is very important. We're looking for the big things. We're looking for the roof, the plumbing, the foundation, and electrical. We use the inspection report to help negotiate repairs, but it is not a laundry list. We do not take the inspection report, give it to the seller, and ask them to fix every little thing. We're looking for the major items of what is potentially going to be a safety hazard or major systems issues. These are things that Cody had already talked to, but just going over, think beyond the purchase price, knowing your numbers. It's important for the budget, truly, and what he had talked about with the credit score. What's important, what you are approved for is not necessarily what you want to spend. Get pre-approval early. Hannah, did you have a question? You want to get pre-approval early. That's really important in your purchasing process. Be prepared. A typical closing takes 30 days, but sometimes there's a delay. So if you're renting right now, it's important that you have a little bit of leeway there. And then don't make any major financial changes. Once you've got under contract and you've secured your loan, you don't want to change your job, and you don't want to go out and purchase a car, because it changes things like your debt to income ratio. Real quickly on the home buying process, and if you have questions about this, please stop me and ask questions. So you would hire the Best of Austin Living team. Yay, we're here for you. Shop around for your mortgage. Cody is our go-to lender. He's amazing. You're going to want to talk with him, really go through, get pre-qualified for a loan, or as he said, actually, we want to get pre-approved. And then you want to prioritize the top features for your home. What are the things that are really important to you? You're going to then visit different properties with us. We're going to rank the houses, what's an A house for you, a B house, a C house. If you have any properties that check all your boxes, you're going to want to go ahead and put an offer in on those. So it's important for us to understand what's an A house for you. It's also important to know that there are very few homes out there that are going to check everybody's box. They did a study, and I can never remember the year of the study, but they looked at people who built their dream homes, that custom built their dream homes, and something like only 84% said, that they were able to achieve 84% of what they truly wanted. There was always something that was not perfect. And so just know that, yes, it's great to have those desires of what's important to you, and at the same time, most likely a house is not going to be perfect. So what is an A property for you? We're going to make an offer. It's going to be negotiated, and we're going to get it accepted for you. You're going to pay earnest money and option fee. Earnest money is generally 1% of the contract, and then option fee, it depends on this market and it depends on the neighborhood. Maybe $100, $200, maybe $500, generally for a 7 to 10 day option period. That's the time in which you are going to have the house inspected. So both earnest money and option fee, those are due when all persons have signed the contract, due within three days of everybody having signed. Then we would have the inspection scheduled. You're going to be paying for that. It's gone up in price a little bit. It used to be about $500. It's about $700 now. Any repairs, again, to plumbing, electrical, roof, foundation that come up, we would negotiate those. The seller has every right to say no thank you. You as the buyer have every right to ask for repairs, and we usually find someplace in the middle. Then the rest, basically from that point on, is financing and appraisal during the finance approval period. The appraisal is something that you as the buyer do pay for. It is ordered by the lender, and the appraisal is the lender making sure that the value of the home matches what it is that you are paying for it. So we have that. Then we move on. Really, from this point forward, it's documentation with you and the lender. Then we have our closing day. That's excited. And then you receive your keys, and you have now purchased a house. That's so exciting. There's a lot to think about when you do it, but at the same time, it's important to plan. So what are the things, like Cody had said, looking at your credit score, looking at the cash that you have to put down towards a house. Those are two things that would be really great if you are thinking about purchasing a house, of go ahead and planning towards that. It's always a good time to purchase. That's the question always. Cody had said, that proverb, when's the best time to plant a tree? It was yesterday. When's the next best time? It's today. There are things in your life, there's a reason why you're considering purchasing a house. So that would be today. The things that I would encourage you to consider, especially in today's market, is that Austin is a much better opportunity for buyers right now than it's been in many, many years. There's a lot of opportunity where before prices just kept on going up. Now they've really come in, they've plateaued, and sellers are much more willing to negotiate today. And they are doing their best to make sure that their homes are show ready. So it's a great opportunity, great time to buy in Austin.
Areas of Austin that are hotter than others. If you were to recommend somebody who wanted to buy an investment property in Austin, do you recommend buying while it's hot, while the prices are good in Austin, or is it better to buy something that's like farther out, like in the Round Rock or farther out?
That is such a good question. Well, I have some questions that I would ask. So as an investment property, is it something that you would be looking to do a short-term rental on, or is it something that you're looking more as a long-term rental?
So when you say short-term, do you mean like 12 months lease, or is it like when
Airbnb.
you say
less than 30
possibly
days?
Yeah, possibly, depending on, like, if it was in Austin proper, then yes.
So I would have a different response based upon the answers to those questions. So if when I talk to my investor clients who are wanting to do short-term rentals, more Airbnb type rentals, they are going to capitalize on how close to downtown that they are. So really, truly at that point, often it's looking in the East Austin area. That's going to be where you have proximity compared to being West Austin, the Zilker Park area. I mean, the prices there are just so much more. So if there is something in the East Austin area that fits the budget like that for short-term rentals, that can be great. For long-term year plus rentals, frankly, I would be looking at where the major employers are. That's so the Domain area, Samsung out in Taylor, for Tesla out on the east side, and then truly like Hayes County, there are a lot of major employers down there. So I would be looking, when I'm talking with somebody about investing, where is it that you want to capitalize on either the location because of the events that are happening, or where it is in regards to major employers.
Awesome. Great. I love it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Does anybody else have a question? Okay, well, thank y'all for joining.